Welcome to a special TikTok social media version where the hosts are just going off. They got 5 minutes to do what they do. Carlos is in the cage right now. Go.
All right, guys. Hey, look, we've been talking about Trump every day because he's in the news every day, right? Something crazy happens and he exceeds our expectations every day in a weird way. But in the Black community, I spoke to a guy, diehard Democrat his whole life. This guy, hey, he voted for every Democrat in every election since he's been able to vote. He comes to me and we're just sort of kicking it. And he said something to me that just totally threw me off. And I did not expect to hear it from his brother from our old hood. He said, your boy Trump, you know he ain't wrong about everything. I was like, what? I said, you want to elaborate on that? He said, man, if you want to get rid of crime, I know about crime. If you want to get rid of crime, somebody else should have sent the military in. I'm like, what? So I'm just taking all this in, right? I'm like, this is a brother from the old hood, right? If he's thinking like Trump is right for sending the military in and violating people's civil rights to get rid of crime, man, what are we supposed to think? Then he jumped to another topic. Don't want no, hey, look, whatever you born as, that's what you need to be in that locker room. I don't care what you identify as. That ain't flying. He said, that ain't gonna work. This is the dude from the hood, right? He was like, nah. And he went back and even hit me with the Bruce Jenner thing. He's like, nah, man, I'm telling you, if you born a boy, you go to the boys' locker room. You born a girl, you go to the girls' locker room. Trump ain't wrong. And I'm sitting there taking this in. I'm like, when did this guy become a political correspondent and journalist and activist? And then he hit me with the one I knew he was going to hit me with from DC. I think Trump is right about wanting to change the name back to the Redskins. Okay, that was the only thing I could have seen coming. So I'm going to throw it back out to you guys. In this state of chaos that we have right now, especially in the Black community, would you think that someone who's been a diehard Democrat is starting to, from the Black community, is starting to favor the things or some of the things that Donald Trump is actually doing? I didn't see that one coming. Mr. Spivey, come on, man. Give me some feedback before CJ jump in. What you got on that?
Carlos, it's kind of hard for me to comment on this and keep it real calm. The thing that troubles me is I find it very hard to understand why Black people would support Donald Trump. I mean, unless you are just living under a rock, you know that Donald Trump does not like Black people. He's doing everything in his power to destroy Black people. He wants to get rid of all books regarding slavery. He wants to close down take artifacts out of African American museums. I mean, he's doing everything in his power. And I don't know why a person would think that he doesn't like Black folks, but he likes me. And you are Black. I mean, you must not identify with being Black. The second comment I want to make regarding this is that, Trump, how do I want to put this? These people, this guy that you're talking about, who talks about he thinks that the National Guard needs to be in these Black communities and that type of thing to cut down on crime. It lets me know that he does not know what's going on in the country and in the world at this particular time. Donald Trump put the National Guard in Washington, D.C., but he didn't have them over in the Southeast. He didn't have them over in the Northeast. He had them down in Northwest, in Georgetown, and in those soft communities. He didn't put them anywhere that there's real crime. So he did nothing with crime. So when you get a guy like your friend who's supposed to be hood and tells you, oh, he's doing something about crime, he doesn't know what the hell is going on. And he needs to learn what the hell is going on, or otherwise keep his mouth closed.
Go ahead, CJ.
Come on, CJ, give me that last 30 seconds.
If you go over, go
It's
ahead.
fine.
If you need to go.
The Republican messaging machine is a well-oiled machine powered by Fox News and millions of dollars and
Yeah.
Twitter and X and Newsmax and billionaires, and they've bought TikTok now and all these things. But this is frustrating. Then people always say, why am I so hard on the Democrats? But there's no counter narrative. There's no counter message. Like they're jingling keys in front of people saying, don't you hate trans people and immigrants? And using that to distract from the fact that Donald Trump is making their lives worse in every single way. Prices going up, healthcare going up, all those things. But again, they're distracted by the messaging of the culture war. That's culture war stuff. That's why the Republicans only focus on culture war stuff to distract people from basically just transferring the wealth to their donors. So that's all that is. That's just there being no effective opposition party that has no message to counter that.
Okay. Mr. Spivey, you ready for the cage? You got your 5 minutes?
Thanks, guys.
Well, I want to get
You
the
tell me
guys.
when to go. Tell me when to go.
I
You
want to
ready?
get the guy's opinion on something that's really happened, and I'm sure CJ will have a lot of commentary on it. But the flip of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, who was a staunch Trump supporter, and now she's calling the Republican people weak. She's calling MAGA, which, by the way, let me please bring this up. Over the weekend, I've heard a couple of podcasts, and they don't refer to them as MAGA anymore. They're doing a Donald Trump type thing. You know, he never called people by their name. He called Kamala, Kamala, and all of this. So the new name for the MAGA is maggots. That was the
Yeah.
name that was used that I heard several times. But Marjorie Taylor Greene has made a complete flip. Couple of things. One of the things that she's did is she signed the discharge petition to have the Epstein files released. But she is now screaming to the top of her lungs about the Republicans and the Affordable Care Act subsidies expiring at the end of the year, and that the Republicans want to raise and double the rates. And one of the things that she's using as her reasoning for changing and pivoting is because her community in Georgia, which is a very poor community, the majority of the people are on Medicaid. And as we've talked about on this show, Donald Trump is planning to cut $880 billion from Medicaid. And if he does this and the subsidies expire, she's saying that the insurance rates could go to 900 or over $1,000. And one of the things that's her concern is her son falls within this group. My only thing that I want to get the brother's opinion on is, do they think that this is a political ploy? Because as I've said so many times on this podcast before, I believe whenever a politician's mouth is moving, he's lying, whether it's male, female, Democrat, or Republican. Do you think that she's pulling this in order to get reelected because the midterms are coming up? And then she's going to do like, I know you all remember Rubio and Ted Cruz. Donald Trump called his wife a pig and said she was ugly, and he was in a feud, but now he drinks Donald Trump's Kool-Aid at Mar-a-Lago every day. And Rubio, they were in a battle, and now he's the Secretary of State. So I'm just wondering your opinion as to whether you think Marjorie Taylor Greene is sincere in this turn of events that she's made, or do you think if she gets reelected in November, come January, she'll be drinking Trump's Kool-Aid again?
Yeah,
CJ,
CJ.
please give me your opinion.
I think it's better late than never that some people realize that Donald Trump is a complete fraud. Like I think there were some actual America First Republicans that actually were just stupid and were just duped and they really thought that he was going to be America First, but now we're into a second term and I think it's just she's been exposed and as you said, I think part of it is a calculation. I think again she wants to keep her seat and I think she sees the blood in the water for Republicans, once those policies get enacted in the midterms, it should be a bloodbath. Although, again, there's no Democratic opposition anywhere, so maybe not. The Republicans might still survive the big beautiful bill in the midterms, but she sees a lane for herself. She could be take a more populist route, and it could end up being like a Marjorie Taylor Greene versus AOC kind of thing going for the next election as people try to lean more into populism. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sincerity to it if she starts backing it up with her votes. It is very strange to see her showing more conviction and more backbone and more courage than Democratic leadership than Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. She has she can speak more strongly against the genocide and speak more strongly against the Trump administration than some of the Democrats is a little troubling. But again, it goes back to the lack of opposition party where we have to rely on Marjorie Taylor Greene for moral clarity. We're in bad shape right now. But at the same time, I'll take it. Again, I think, in the position of resistance against a fascist regime, we need to take all the allies that we can get and we need to unite with the other poor people who are going to be hurt by these bills. As you said, her constituency is going to get decimated by this
Yeah.
bill. And to get ahead of that, we need to unite against them for this resistance. It's not just going to be the people who are is convenient.
Hey,
Carlos, real quick, what you got?
I think she's going to say what she needs to say to get reelected. She may feel that way deep down inside that she really wants to do the right thing, but I just don't see a Republican, especially from Georgia, taking a different route than Donald Trump. Yeah, she'll oppose him. She'll say whatever she has to say to get reelected. And then after she gets reelected, she'll be right back, I believe, in Trump's side, supporting whatever bill or whatever agenda he has. So that's my take.
All right. So who's next for their 5 minutes? CJ, you the last man standing?
Yep, it's me.
All right, go.
All right. I'm going to again talk about kind of the Democratic resistance and where we're at right now. There's been a string of press interviews that I definitely wanted to highlight. The first was Katie Porter in a race out in California, high profile Democrat, totally incinerated her political career during this train wreck of an interview where she completely melted down at a basic follow up question. And then the reporter's like, well, I asked every candidate this exact question. And she was just like, I don't want this interview to go bad for us. And it's like, I don't know what that means. I just asked a question. And props to the reporter. I don't have her name at the time, but she powered right through with the questions. It was like, I don't care if you're uncomfortable. I'm going to ask this question. But it shows the fragility of Democratic leadership and something that has been a problem since the election with Kamala. When she was doing her press tours, they are incapable of doing interviews that aren't super controlled and then not sounding insane. So we had Cory Booker be interviewed by Jennifer Welsh on a podcast, one of those podcasts that the Democrats always avoid like the plague, because these are not trained media people. They're podcasters. They don't have the same, legacy media rules and things like that. Cory Booker went down in flames in his interview because he could not call Netanyahu a war criminal, the one who has war criminal warrants from the International Criminal Court. And he could not bring himself to say that Israel's doing a genocide. He kept swerving the question until she was like, "That's bullshit. I need you to what are you doing? Like, you can't just give me a simple yes or no. You gave me a whole dissertation to dodge." And she correctly highlighted that's why people get so frustrated with these Democrats like Kamala and Cory Booker when you ask them a simple yes or no question and they bloviate for 60 minutes about a story about when they were a little kid and about like some anecdote where it's like, I just asked a yes or no question. It gets very frustrating. We move on to Gavin Newsom in an interview with Van Lathan, where he brought up APAC, and Gavin Newsom starts to literally squirm in his chair when APAC was mentioned, and he said the word interesting, I think 14 times in a minute. He said, "Oh, it's interesting. You brought up APAC. That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. You would do that." And then he was like, Why is it interesting? Well, it's just interesting because they have nothing to do in my day-to-day life. It's just very interesting because I never even think about it. I haven't thought about AIPAC in years. I haven't, that was literally basically Gavin Newsom's answer. One of the most weirdest, cagiest, most suspicious answers ever for, again, a very simple question that makes me really, really curious about how much AIPAC money he's taking now, in which I wasn't before. So again, Democrats struggling with interviews, crashing and burning anytime they're in an uncontrolled environment, except their rising superstar, Zoran Mamdani, who went on Fox News and dominated in a hostile environment. At every gotcha question that they threw at him, he kept it focused on the affordability of New York City. They asked him, "Do you think Hamas should disarm?" And he responds like, "I'm running for mayor of New York. I have no opinions on Hamas disarming. I have an opinion about making New York City an affordable city." That is how you do it. That I don't know why it's so difficult to get a normal person to get a normal answer. And this is the one guy that the establishment won't support. Hakeem Jeffries was just on TV talking about, I haven't talked to Zoran in months since the thing. They just refuse to support him. They refuse to endorse him. And he is the only Democrat going on Fox News other than Bernie Sanders and dominating, winning over conservatives, going on these interviews, giving straight answers like a human and not frustrating every host with a long, pre-record, written speech that his team gave him. So it's very frustrating to watch the resistance be so pathetic. The Democrats have seemingly a great candidate who is the best orator they've had since Barack Obama, and they just refuse to support him because he's too far left for their liking. He wants health care for everyone and not mealy mouth subsidies to make things a little bit more affordable. So they won't embrace that type of candidate, and they're going to keep losing. That's why I said, even with the midterms coming up and how unpopular the Republicans are, the fact that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are leading the Democrats, they might not win another election for the end of time. Those people are so incompetent. They're so unlikable. They're so bad at their jobs, and all they do is get rewarded for losing. They get rewarded for failing. They fail up, and they end up with the same jobs and these cushy six-figure jobs, and that's why they're so out of touch. So it's frustrating to watch that. But on the Republican side, on my way out, it was great to see George Stephanopoulos basically stuff JD Vance into a locker live on TV, because that is how you handle those right wingers when they're lying and they're just not answering your questions. As soon as JD Vance started doing his bullshitter tap dancing, holier than thou, I'm so indignant you would ask me a real question, he just ended the interview. It's like, okay, we're not getting anywhere. Okay, so you're not going to answer the question, and we'll be right back. Cut him off mid-sentence. He said, "What, George, wait." He's like, "Nope, I don't care." Vice president, I don't care. Like, again, and that's how you do it. Don't let these people waste your time. Don't let them control the narrative with their bullshit lies and messaging. They even have airports pushing back on that TSA message. There are airports refusing to air the Trump administration's, partisan huge violation of the Hatch Act, where they're just saying, "Oh, the Democrats shut down the government, and that's why you're experiencing delays." There are airports, there are people pushing back because it's just so ridiculous. We're just in such ridiculous times with a fascist regime that is literally throwing people in concentration camps and snatching them off the streets, and the Democratic resistance is sending them a strongly worded letter. That's where we're at.
Well,
CJ,
folks, go ahead, Mr. Spivey.
CJ, I'm gonna say something that the young kids, since we're on TikTok, they'll be able to relate to. They have an old saying that you don't let nobody mess up your bag. And what you talking about, Cory Booker was not gonna allow somebody to mess up his bag and talk about Israel and their actions against Gaza, because Cory Booker gets a lot of money from the Jews. And when Cory Booker was at Oxford, he was head of the Jewish, I think, organization there. As far as Gavin Newsom, and you've talked about this before, Gavin Newsom, and I'm not sure about Chuck Schumer, and you can probably elaborate on it, and also Chuck Schumer and any of the other ones, but their bag is AIPAC. And you've talked about that many times. And so when they're getting that AIPAC money, they are not going to say too much to mess up their bag. And so that's why Gavin Newsom was tongue-tied. If you get Jeffries, he's going to be tongue-tied. If you get Chuck Schumer, he's going to be tongue-tied. And definitely Cory Booker is not going to speak out. You can ask them 10 different ways about the genocide that not Netanyahu is committing against the people in Gaza, and he's not going to speak against it.
Cory Booker did a 24-hour filibuster and forgot to mention that.
And
He had
never
a whole
mentioned one
day
time.
to talk
Yep.
about it and mention it. But again, and you alluded to it. There's who doesn't take any AIPAC money, surprisingly? Marjorie Taylor Greene, which is why she's able to speak out like that, because she's not taking the AIPAC money.
And
There's another
Zoran is not taking any
no
AIPAC
AIPAC
money.
money. There's one more Republican, Randy Fine, not Randy Fine, but it's he's the terrible one. But there's some other Republican that also doesn't take AIPAC money. So again, those are the maybe one or two Republicans that don't take it. I'm not saying they're good people, but those are the ones you see that outwardly speak against the genocide. It's like one or two of them, but again, it's that AIPAC money flowing. Watching Gavin Newsom literally squirm in his chair was really weird. Again, I would encourage anybody to look up that clip of Van Lathan from his podcast to see Gavin Newsom say the word interesting 14 times in like 30 seconds.
I don't know who the 4 Republicans are, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, I saw her in an interview yesterday, and she talked about there were 4 Republicans that signed the discharge petition to release the Epstein files.
I think
But
it's
I don't know
Massey.
who the other 3 are.
Yeah, I
You
think
may
it's
know.
Thomas Massey is the other one who doesn't take AIPAC money. That's his name. Yeah.
Yeah, if they're
Massey,
not taking
yeah.
AIPAC money, it's not messing with their bag. They have no reason to not support things.
Wow. Well, folks, this is another look at the Thought Brothers. And until next time, we will see you later. We are out of here.
Take care, folks.
On base, y'all.